Welcome back to a brand new episode of the podcast. I've just realised as I'm speaking, I noticed about half an hour ago that my voice was sounding a little bit lackluster. And I was like, okay, perhaps I need to just have a little, get rid of the little frog. But apparently it's a little bit more than that. It needs to be rested. So after doing this episode, I shall rest my voice for a bit and not speak. Or I shall try not to anyway. But anyway, you are here for a brand new episode of the podcast. We'll get cracking in a moment. I'm just hanging fire for a second in case anybody from our live studio audience is going to come and join us. We shall see. We are changing things up a little bit next week, which I shall share a little bit more with you in this episode in a bit. And also at the end of the week as a reminder as well. Anyway, let's get cracking with today's episode. Welcome to today's episode of the Heaven and Elle podcast. I am your host, Elle Edwards, founder of the Itchy Soul Playground and Yuya. So in yesterday's episode of the podcast, I was reminding you that Act 3 of our story, because remember, we're taking a few days this week just to tweak and explore some of the nuances of structuring your year like a story. And so yesterday came with a reminder that you don't have to carry everything from this year, from this story, into the next story, into the next year. And so you had those 3 prompts plus the extra one to explore with Holy Spirit. So if you haven't done that, I would really encourage you to do that, because there will be things from this year that you didn't really particularly enjoy, or maybe are not highlighted in a positive way. Things that you are ready to leave with God and step forward into the next year, the next story with that freedom. But we ended up with a reminder that the Act 3 is a time to wrap up all those pieces and then celebrate at the end of any good story, whether it's in a book, whether it's on film, whether it's a TV series. There's always some kind of celebration. Now, the specifics of that celebration will vary depending upon what kind of story it is. So if you're watching a romantic comedy, then celebration might end with a wedding and a wedding party. If you were watching a Marvel film, well, if you're watching something like Infinity War, there's not much celebrating at the end of that. I'm not going to say anything other than that because I don't want to give anything away. However, at the end of the film that comes after that, Endgames, there is a lot more celebration. But of course, the celebration is different in that context because it's not a romantic comedy. My point being, how you choose to celebrate the end of this story, the end of this year, will be particular to you. And so there's a couple of reminders here. The first reminder is you do not need to be comparing your celebration to anybody else's. You need to be you, the person who God created you to be. That work of art, stepping into that plan and that purpose, the good works that He created before the world, or as He created the world, He knew you. And so there is a specific way that He is inviting you to celebrate with Him. A quick Google search of the word celebration in the Bible will bring you to all of the different feasts that they had in Jewish times. So the first one, I don't think it's actually the very, very first one, but one of the first ones I found when I Googled it is Passover. So every year they celebrate Passover, and they're reminded is to celebrate and commemorate and remember that time when God saved them from the Egyptians. And I imagine, and from the little bit that I've seen and understand of the Passover celebration, that will look very different to what a celebration might look like if you're celebrating somebody's birthday. Again, it's that reminder there are nuances. There are ways to celebrate that allow you to be you. And so I want to encourage you today, and you don't need to just do this today, but as you're getting ready and preparing and wrapping up this year, as you're moving through Act 3 of this story, I want to encourage you to talk to God about what it will look like for you to celebrate. Ask Him to bring to mind those things that He is treasuring about your story together this year. He is the ultimate author. He's the creator. This is the reason why we go back to Him and go, okay, who did you make me to be? Quizzes and questionnaires and things, they're all great. They're good starting points, but ultimately we go back to the author. So having done that, it would also make a lot of sense to go back to the author in terms of figuring out, okay, how do I celebrate? How do I end this well? Because life is busy. One of the reasons why I don't have much voice today is, as I told you yesterday, I spent the whole weekend away doing loads of really fun stuff, and that's great. And then you come back to real life, and there's sometimes this pressure to, okay, we need to catch up, we need to go, 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 go. I want to remind you and encourage you today to slow down. Take a deep breath. Give yourself space to smell the daisies, as I put it in the show notes. You know, Ferris Bueller, I don't know if any of you have seen the film Ferris Bueller's Day Off. There's a quote from Ferris Bueller about life moving fast, and if you don't sort of slow down from time to time, you're going to miss it. That's not exactly how the quote goes. I am slaughtering it slightly. But the point being that, you know, if you spend all your time just focusing on the next thing and then the next thing and the next thing, you can start to feel a bit monotonous and like you're a robot. You are not a robot. You're a human being. Yeah, not a human doing, as people like to say. You are here to be everything that God had in mind when he created you and dreamed you into existence. In, of course, that intentional, expectant relationship with him. Don't just stop at being you. Be youya. So be you in that intentional, expectant relationship with him. You know, intentional, because you get to choose to do day-to-day life with him. Expectant, you can hear from God. And relationship, not religion. We are going to be unpacking this more actually from next week. So I did promise you, for those of you who are following along via YouTube, podcast folks won't have heard me say this yet. So you're going to hear it for the first time now. But right at the start, before we started the episode proper, I did say about how things are changing slightly from next week. So next week, on October the 15th, which is next Friday, is the 7th birthday of yuyacom. Since I've owned it. I've shared with some of you before that I did not make up the word Yuya. Yuya, aside from, there's the Dr. Seuss quote, there's no one alive who's youer than you. That's Y-O-U-E-R, youer than you. Misses out the I, the intentional. That intentional is very important. It's actually John Ortberg in one of his books who first coined that word Yuya. Well, first time I saw it anyway. And so, as I've shared with you before, I got really excited when I first read his book, and it tied into lots of stuff that I've been working through with God over a number of years. And then finally, one day, yuyacom became available. One day in 2014, 15, 16, 18, 19, 2014, just checking. October the 15th, 2014, I took ownership of yuyacom. So we are celebrating Yuya's 7th birthday next Friday. Now, some people who follow along will get excited about that number 7 and will like to remind me that 7 is the number of completion. Earlier in the year, I had a dear friend and her sister were on a Zoom call with me, and they were sharing lots of different stuff. And it came up in conversation that I remember saying, I think it's been 7 years since Yuya. And I had this nudge to go and look up the actual date. And they got really excited. They said, well, it means it's completion and stepping into what's new. And at the same time as that, I've been getting niggles around, okay, what are we doing next? I have a podcast exclusive for you. Lots of you following along will have heard me mention more than once the Itchy Soul Playground. Some of you who are watching this are in the Itchy Soul Playground. Well, the Itchy Soul Playground is having, I was going to say a facelift, a revamp, an expansion. Expansion is the word that comes to mind. So some of you will also know that a few weeks ago, we started painting our house blue. My actual house here at home where I live. I say we, I didn't do it. There's a lovely man called Alan who's painting the house. And it's created a little bit of a stir. Lots of people love the colour. Other people are not quite so sure. One person in particular told our painter that it's not in keeping with the character of the street. Well, maybe it's time that the street needs a new character, because the blue house, as this is going to become known in terms of offline, will one day in the future be this space where people can come for encouragement, for writing retreats, for lots of really cool stuff. And then Holy Spirit reminded me of a dream that he and I had together at the end of 2019, where he shared about the online space, which at the time was called the Itchy Soul Playground, and the offline dream, and how the online dream feeds into and is part of the offline dream. Well, having had this fresh vision for the Blue House physically in this location, I was then getting this niggle. What does that mean for the Itchy Soul Playground? And what I mean by expansion is that one of the pieces I've shared with you before is one of the promises from God is actually that the Itchy Soul Playground, as it is known right now, the Itchy Soul Playground is going to impact thousands of people, make a difference, help them be you in real and tangible ways. However, there's not enough space for 1,000 people in a playground. So from next week on, we're going to do it on the anniversary, the birthday, Yuya birthday, on October the 15th. We are going to be unveiling the Blue House, the online space. And so it will still have a playground, and it will have other rooms. And as we grow and expand, we'll include other rooms and other spaces in there as well. I mention this now because next week we're going to be having a live podcast recording together. So if you're following along and you're somebody who is free, available at, we're actually going to start, we're going to have a pre-podcast party at 1:30 next Friday afternoon. So that's 1:30 UK time, 2:30 PM in South Africa, 8:30 AM Eastern time. I know for folks on the West Coast, it's very early. It's 5:30 AM. It might be a bit early for you, I understand. But for everybody who's available and we are going to get together on Zoom. We're going to have a little bit of celebration, a little bit of sort of party banter. We can share, if you want to share some of the things that after you've listened to this podcast and you've done your play thing and you've explored it with Holy Spirit, things that you'd like to share that you're celebrating from this year. There will be an opportunity to do life together in community. Then on the top of the hour, we're going to record the podcast from Zoom directly onto YouTube. Logistics note for anybody who is thinking, I don't really want my face on the podcast. Don't worry, there's a button I can click so that when the podcast piece goes onto YouTube, it will be just like this and only see my face. Except for the logo won't be there because that logo comes out via another piece of software, but never mind. And then after we recorded the podcast, we've then got through until the top of the next hour to share anything, any questions that you have, anything that comes up. It's going to be real time of celebration and sharing, doing community. Now, usually these events are just for folks who are in the playground or in the Blue House, as it's going to be known after next Friday. I'm going to have to get in the habit of saying the Blue House instead of the Itchy Soul Playground, but hey, I can do that. So usually these events on Zoom are exclusively for members of the playground. Next Friday is for anybody who wants to join. So right now today, because this is something that Holy Spirit and I explored literally this morning, I'd had some niggles around it and he kept saying, right, ask me about it. But yesterday I was very sleep deprived. Today my brain is still slightly fudge-like, but not quite as much. And so we were exploring some of the specifics. I don't have a special page on the website for you to go yet to sign up to be a part of this. What I'd encourage you to do instead is if you sign up for the Holy Spirit Love Notes, yuyacom.com/love notes, I will be sending an email out to everybody who gets that because they do not need to sign up again. They're already getting emails from me. They're already part of the movement, part of that side of things. I will be creating a special page over the next couple of days. So if there's people that you know who would like to be there with us, you'll be able to invite them. And then throughout the rest of October, we're going to be unpacking Yuya. We're going to do a whole month of celebration and what that means for you. Because really, I get excited, but this isn't about me. This is about helping you be Yuya, the person God created you to be, choosing intentionally to step into day life with him, expecting to hear his voice so you can step into that relationship. We're going to be unpacking that more, and it's going to culminate, date for your diary.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
That was my watch. It's going to culminate on October the 31st, which is a Sunday. So you'll have heard me mention before our one-day events that we have in the playground. And they are, again, usually exclusively for the playground. However, for 1 month only, at the end of October, on October the 31st, anybody who wants to come and join us for that one-day event will be able to do so. And again, I will send out details. Over the next few days, I'll be able to tell you how you can register for that. And if you want to invite your friends, you can. There won't be a recording available for you unless you're in the playground. So if you can't come, I'm afraid you're going to miss. And equally, you don't have to be there for the whole thing. You can come. There's 4 sessions during the day. You can hop in and out as needs be. Playground members, you will of course get the recordings in the playground as always, because that's how we roll. But it's October the 31st. Yes, I know it's Halloween. Yes, I know that in America, lots of you get very excited about Halloween. Fine, that's okay. I don't really like Halloween. I find it a bit scary, quite honestly. But why? It's always the last Sunday in the month. And I did for a split second go, maybe I should change it because, but no, we're not doing that. We're doing it on October 31st, as was planned, as has been announced. The only difference is that you get to come too. And it will be, so we're going to have a whole, like a birthday month, if you like, which I'm really excited about. But more importantly, what are you excited about? What are those things that you need to take time to pause and celebrate from this week? So I've shared with you a little bit of where we're going, that what this birthday month, this celebration for you and what it means for you. But more importantly, what are you celebrating? I want to encourage you today, your plaything, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to take some time with Holy Spirit. Remembering, of course, if you think you can't hear God, go and get the Yuya book, yuyacom. You can download it for free on Apple or Kindle. But I'm working on the assumption that you have conversations with God. Ask him, Holy Spirit, bring to mind those things from this year that you would like me to celebrate, and be specific, because there will be some wonderful things. Even if this year looked very different to how you were hoping, what you were expecting, what you were, aiming for, there will still be things to celebrate and bring to mind. So I want to encourage you, that is your plaything for today. Don't just do it in your head. Get a piece of paper and pen, do this in your notebook with Holy Spirit. It will give you something real and tangible to look back on and put a smile on your face. And of course, we will be back tomorrow. We are unpacking this a little bit more, culminating on Thursday with a special episode for those people who struggle with this idea of planning or goal setting. That episode is for you. Tomorrow, though, we're going to be spending a few minutes really focusing on why it's so important for you to hear God's heart. What's the point of all of this? Why do I keep banging on about it so much? Because it is important, and it's I believe the reason that how you can have a happy, delightful day to life and make a difference in the world as well. That's tomorrow, same time, 2 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. South Africa, 9 a.m. Eastern time. But more than anything else, take some time today or tomorrow morning if you need to ask Holy Spirit, what are those things that you are celebrating? Reflect on them. Write them down. Enjoy those feelings. Notice where it feels in your body and enjoy it. We've said before, last thing, then we are really finishing. We've said before that the whole thing around any event in life, there's the anticipation, there's the actual event, and then there's the memory of it. And all three of those things have the potential to activate happiness and joy and delight. So taking the time to celebrate plays into that third part. So do not skip it. As always, of course, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to share this episode with you. I will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, have yourself a delightful day. Take care. Bye-bye.